We used to get the ones where you crack them. All right, fellas. I used to smell smelling salts and then baby powder at the powerlifting events. I can't smell baby powder now. I'll throw up.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. It's like a nasty. Right. Ready to rock and roll, Frank?
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. Looking for the perfect grooming experience for your pup? Welcome to Carley's Fairy Tale Dog Grooming, located at 8 North Main Street in Pittston. We offer boutique-style grooming with a focus on quality over quantity. Your furry friend will enjoy a cage-free, stress-free environment where they will feel comfortable and pampered. At Carley's, we make sure every dog leaves feeling and looking like royalty. Call 541-410-9582 or stop in today to book your appointment at Carley's Fairy Tale Dog Grooming. Genoa Wholesale Foods, supplying quality since 1947. For over 75 years, Genoa Wholesale Foods has been your trusted partner for premium food supplies. Specializing in services to pizzerias, Genoa also caters to restaurants, bakeries, delis, and bars throughout northeastern Pennsylvania. They proudly offer a blend of both private label and national brands, helping you find the perfect products to meet your restaurant needs. With local deliveries and the care of a family-owned business, they are committed to making your success their priority. Choose Genoa Wholesale Foods for reliable, top-quality restaurant supplies that keep your business running smoothly. Genoa Wholesale Foods, locally owned and operated for 3 generations. Call Genoa today at 570-823-6142 or visit them online at www.genoafoods.com. Welcome to Food Fight. I'm your host, Brian DiMattei, and this is my first time doing back-to-back recordings on the same day. I'm all amped up. These guys gave me some smelling salts, and I feel like a whole new person in here. But I'm here for round 2 with my new producer and my new editor here at Conversion Works Media, Frank Sepko. Welcome to Food Fight.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there's a whole team. It's not me.
A whole team. You're absolutely right.
Can't
absolutely
take that
right.
credit.
Absolutely
but,
right.
Yeah, awesome. I'm honored to be on here, man. I'm really excited about the relationship. I think the whole crew here just really loves to work on fun projects. So yeah, cool studio setup.
Oh man,
right?
I walked in here. I don't mean to cut you off. I walked in here. I was like, when I was driving over here, I was like, I told myself, I forgot the tablecloth. I'm like, I bet Brian has a tablecloth covered, right? I walked in here. I go, I can't wait to see what it looks like. And I walked in. I brought the crew some bagels from the bagel bar down there in Kingston. Got some kosher butter out there. It's pretty good. And I walked in here, and just like it was the first day I walked in here a few weeks ago when I came in here about me coming in here and doing the recordings, the energy. I came in here with the energy of you guys just being the editor for my videos I was going to do myself in my kitchen still. And then between wanting to clear that out and the energy and what you guys talked about when you came in here, I go, let's have you do the whole fucking thing.
I love it, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's where I turned that fast with it. I came in with the idea of that, but again, I told Brian, I walked in here, I'm like, am I in the wrong spot? You know what I mean? It was so funny.
Sure.
But it was just so, it's not like it wasn't welcoming, because it was welcoming. I came in here, I'm like, oh, this is great.
Well, it means a lot to me that you're saying that, because that's really a big part of the culture here, right? We've got in here, we're working with a group of people who love being in the creative space. And so the culture here is that of, you walk in, and it is literally a part of our program. When you walk in the door, we want people to feel the energy right away. We want you to feel like, man, I want to come back, right? I want to come back. I want to hang out. Since we are like a retail place, we don't have products hanging out on the walls or anything like that. But, a part of why people love to work here, a part of why the people we work with love to work with us, is because of that culture. You walk in, you feel great, you get excited, right? What happens? Your brain starts cooking, you start putting some good ideas down, and then it's about putting it to work, man. Yeah. And here we are. Here we are, right? This is 1 week after high-fiving and saying, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
And there's no jerking around.
No.
When you guys told me I was leaving here, like, let's get you into the you booked the studio when I was still in the conference room. Let's book that studio for the 10th.
Let's go.
And that was it. I'm like, what time is Frank? You're like, well, 1 o'clock and 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock. Start scheduling people. I got the next whole month lined up with great guests that have been waiting to come on the Food Fight podcast.
Yeah.
And I know you briefly mentioned like you don't own a restaurant or anything like that, but that's all right. We have a variety of guests on the Food Fight podcast, and we're going to tie food into this because we are looking at about 20 pounds of beef in front of me. I'm not talking about you, Frank. I'm talking about the beef.
There's a lot more beef over here.
Talking about the beef that's right here in front of me. This is your half cow you purchased, correct? I see all the body parts on the cow.
Yeah, part of. And why? Why? Right? Why beef? How is that relative to me? Here's the short of it. I've been on a carnivore diet for the past 15 months. We're recording this in April of 2025. I started in January of 24.
Okay.
Right. So, and we can get into the whole story, but for immediate relevance, that's why this is here, because what you're seeing is what changed my life.
Absolutely. We're 100% going to get that's going to be the meat and potatoes of the story, minus the potatoes.
Yeah, exactly.
Minus the potatoes.
I don't know. You said you're going to talk about that.
I'm going to talk about,
I'm intrigued to hear what you got geared up here.
You could eat all the meat you want with a side of pizza. No problems. You get the
Not
right.
happening.
You get the right. Oh, I'm not gonna. I have no intentions on trying to change your mind on anything.
No, but we're gonna have a fun conversation.
We're gonna talk about it. I'm gonna give you my opinion. You can give me your opinion.
Yeah.
I would never, ever jump on anybody about if my opinion is different when it comes to diets, because you know your body the best. What works for you. This is working for you. But you say you missed that pizza. I'm a belief that you could do both. You could do both. Let's get into a little background first, Frank. Okay.
Sure.
So. You started this company, I just heard you say before, 2012 was the beginning of Conversion Works?
Yeah, it probably goes back just slightly before that, because there's a little bit of an interesting history there. So when I first started the company, it wasn't Conversion Works Media. It officially was started as what was called Northeast Sales Partners. So that was my very first company as it pertains to where we're at today.
Okay.
And short of it is that I initially set out to create a rep-based agency, which was going to be more focused on providing a solution for companies, small to mid-sized companies, to reinforce their sales teams. I felt that a big problem in the space was companies trying to get good salespeople, keep good salespeople. It's an ongoing problem still to this day. But as I got into it and I was in consulting and working with some clients, it became very evident that there was a bigger need to move into more of the digital marketing arena. And so, before I switched the name officially to Conversion Works Media, I at the time, it was just me, a desk, a laptop, and at the time I had my dog Knuckles. And my wife, my family, everybody was on edge a little bit, because when you start a business, it's one of those things where you're like, oof, like, is this a good idea? This is a risk. But there was a series of events that led to me opening up this business that helped make that make sense. And so inevitably, as I learned more about the marketing side, got into that, traveled around the country, bumped elbows with some of the industry leaders, and really took all of my personal skills, professional skills, put them all into one little bundle and said, okay, that's the direction I'm going in. And I think I need to be more relevant. So came up with the concept of Conversion Works Media. For those people who aren't really sort of understanding what that name means, in marketing, our objective is always about leading somebody to conversion, right? Wow. Generate a lead, you convert them into a customer. And so, and our logo, which right here, right? Our logo is shaped like a funnel. So in marketing, we have the top of funnel and we lead them down to the point. That point represents the win.
Love that.
Yeah. So there's the quick of it.
No, it's great. I went to school for marketing. I have a marketing degree.
I didn't know that.
I was just telling Brian, I graduated from Penn State in 2009. Okay.
Awesome.
I do not like Penn State football.
Well, that's a bummer, man.
I grew up around, remember GI's Bar in Old Forge by any chance?
Sure.
So I grew up in Old Forge. GI's Bar was a Pit Panther bar. So as a little kid running around there, and back in the 80s, you get away, things were different. You're running around there playing pool or fucking around. Yeah. And everyone's like, just so you kids know, you're breaking my balls, but make sure you hate Penn State football. I was like, oh, yes, sir. So, you know what I mean? So that's the way that went. But yeah, I went to school I graduated with a marketing degree, but I was just telling Brian earlier, like I had to relearn digital marketing. There wasn't much digital marketing in 08, 09, at least not in my textbooks, not in the class. It was still PowerPoint, Google, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And that was great, but I had to relearn marketing, and now I get to practice it.
I think there's a big disconnect in the education system with respect to digital marketing, because here's what I'll say about it. And I know some people would be sensitive about this subject. I don't rule out college, university. I don't rule that out, right? It wasn't my path, and I'm not biased to it because of that reason. But what I will say is that in my position here of accepting different resumes, applications, et cetera, for people who are looking to come work with us, and then you get into these interviews, it's profound how much they don't know. And so you're quite literally trying to invent somebody from new when they're coming in at the ground level. And there's so much that I think that the colleges, universities can be doing to better prepare these folks for walking into an actual job.
You mean specifically in the digital marketing space?
Yeah, I can't speak on the other in the other arenas, but what I can say is that in this space in particular, it's so volatile and so dynamic that if you don't have, I think where there's a real disconnect is that you have to have a profound interest into this subject if you're going to be successful in this space. Because I think that, like so many other things that you can get a technical degree on, and then you can go and venture and be a part of something, I think your love or your interest in that field is going to probably play a role on how much you love doing what you do. Maybe also towards how successful you are towards it. In this space in particular, constant education is so important. So if you're not plugged into all of what is happening, right? We're in a world now where AI is having such a huge impact on marketing, everything really. But if from a marketer's position, you're not focusing on things like that, well, where are you going to be in 3 years from now? You're not going to fit into an ecosystem that requires it, that relies on it so heavily. Yeah, you got to love what you're doing in this space. And I think that the schools can be better at helping those folks better position themselves to how to stay in tune. Don't just sort of get your degree and check out and then say, hey, I could do social media. Hey, right? I think college and university is good for sort of creating some level of fundamental understanding so that you can build on it. But yeah, here's the thing, Bri, right? And here's where I am biased, right? As we speak, I'm 45 years old. So I was around before the internet mattered when it came to marketing and advertising. So I know what it was like to build out sort of what we might be familiar as the Mad Men style advertising campaigns, right? But on this side of the fence, because I'm at 45, I'm old enough to have been a part of that, but I'm also young enough to have been a part of the transition into what we recognize as more of a digital arena today. And so I have those best of both worlds. I would love it if we saw people come out of college with a lot more understanding to what it was and how it got to where it is today, because then that story would help them connect to how we do things today. It would give them a competitive advantage. So that's my recommendation. If anybody's listening and you're in education and you have a means to move that needle, that's the direction you should be focusing on.
Kind of like a history of marketing. It's the history of marketing. Have a class, take a history of marketing. Like you said, you get into where it started off. Mad Men that answered my question on what I wanted to go to school for. I didn't go to college until I was 24, 20, a little young, maybe 23. I went to college because the girlfriend at the time, her parents thought I was a bum. I'll prove you fucking wrong. I'll go to college. We broke up shortly after. I was already enrolled. I graduated from Lackawanna, and then I went to Penn State. And but I started my bad habits about my senior year. It's when my bad habits, my life kind of changed. So I still graduated, but I didn't take it as serious, right? But Mad Men, I didn't realize, after I graduated, it's cool with a marketing degree that the world of Mad Men it's not around anymore. It's not like that anymore. Not in this area.
Not like that.
It's not like that.
It wasn't not the Madison Ave.
Yeah,
thing.
It wasn't as appealing to me. But again, my brain wasn't focused on, and I stayed in the restaurant business anyways. You know what I mean? But I finally got out of it. Now I get to do it now with the social media. Like you said, like social media changes. Forget about 3 years, right? It could be 3 weeks.
That's it.
3 days.
An algorithm changes.
Anything. Instagram. I can't figure it out, man.
User terms change, the policies, right? All of a sudden somebody's calling and saying like, why is my business not showing up, right? I've tried everything. They're just, if you're not plugged in, if you don't have a steady stream of information, you got to, like you said,
you got to stay relevant in that space.
Yeah.
In that space. So speaking of that space, you're also the host of Getting to Know the 570.
Yeah, man. We're I think just over 280 episodes to date. I'm loving it. We have a lot of fun. Brian, who's off camera right now, our producer.
Hey, Brian.
He's he's the man. We got into it. I don't know, 3.5 years ago. It was right around the start of the pandemic, and we've been having a blast.
That was my next question. I think I answered it. Where were you guys sitting around one day and you're like, let's start a podcast for local businesses and bring them in here? Is that how it started, or you just started mixing ideas up a little bit?
Yeah. So I think we had always kicked around the idea of doing a podcast. I knew of other podcasts that were taking place, other podcasts that were doing interviews with business owners, and I think some did it really well, some not so well. I think that the thing that mattered to us was we were in the midst of what was the uncertain time of the pandemic, and we looked at some of our square footage, and we were thinking to ourselves, what can we do with this space? We had a small production studio at the time, like our office that you see here, right? Being in this studio, and then our working office space, it was half the size. And at the time of the pandemic, a business that was in the current space we're sitting in ended up going out, so the square footage opened up, and I took advantage of that and moved into this space as well. So that way we can put a full-fledged production studio in here. And what ended up happening was what was our video production studio, which was small, ended up opening up to be just open space. Mm-hmm. And I'm not a guy who's going to go get a private office. I love being out there with my team at the Bullpen Arena, right? I love that. It's something that I didn't want to change up. So that wasn't going to happen. We already had a conference room, and like I said, we were kicking around the idea of doing a podcast. So at that stage, we were like, is this the time? And there was a little bit of a light bulb that flicked for me. And it was, I was seeing all of this American Express based messaging going out, do business local, shop local. And they do that regularly. And I think it's great to generate that awareness, right? But my honest opinion behind that is that there's a lot of businesses that are small businesses. I don't know that I would ever give them my business. The people behind that business, for a lack of better words, are real shitbags, right? And I think that if we're going to be considerate enough to pay homage to them being a small business, if we're going to be giving them that honor, I want to know that they've earned that, not that they're just titled as a small business and somehow all of a sudden that means that from a vanity play, I'm going to go give this business to this person. I think in any business, you have to earn your customers. I don't think you get to just say, hey, I'm this, and then suddenly I'm somehow entitled to business. You gotta earn your way. And I thought this is a great opportunity for us to start a podcast where I have real conversations with people about their businesses. And it kind of evolved a little bit to go outside of that scope. It was like we occasionally had some unique individuals that came in that were doing some very interesting things that we felt throughout northeastern Pennsylvania were relevant to our podcast to come in and say, here's somebody who came from this, went to this. And that's pretty typical when you're trying to tell stories. I mean, hell, we're here doing it right now, right? But what really I found to be different about our edge is that I wasn't afraid to have real conversations with people and talk to them beyond their business. It's interesting because when we very first started, some of the initial guests that were coming in had that mentality of, I got to be prepared. I'm going to go in and I'm going to be selling my services, my products. That's what I'm doing. And screeching halt we came to, because that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to sell, right? That's not going to make for a compelling conversation. Mm-hmm. And so getting to know the 570 really evolved. And it's interesting because I did go back recently and start listening to some of our originals to hear where we were and where we got to. But yeah, the point is to give people a platform where they can come in and be honest about not only their business, but about them from behind the scenes, similar to what you're doing in your niche, right? Mm-hmm. And so, and having honest conversations. So we're not worried about, oh, I can't say that, or I think that'll reflect me poorly. Those people self-filter themselves, right? So the platform that we give is this platform for you to come and for people to genuinely get to know who you are. And it gives you the opportunity to have earned their interest in your business, because they go, oh, I like what they think. I believe in them. Man, hearing their story and how they work their ass off to get to where they are, like, I could get behind that. I didn't like the shallow approach of the vanity play of just do business local. So that's what getting to know the 570 is all about. And yeah, like I said, I think just slightly over 280 episodes, somewhere around there right now. And we've had some bangers. I mean, some really good conversations, and I love it. I love it.
I'm looking forward to coming on there next week.
I can't wait, man.
It's going to
be great.
Next week we bumped up.
We're going to turn the tables.
We are going to turn the tables. I got to you first, get to be second. So we're going to get into, so there's a food fight podcast. That's why we have pounds of meat in between us. We're going to discuss the carnivore diet and healthy lifestyles, non-healthy lifestyles, food relationships, which we're going to get into. So that's the food part. But I want to hear the fight part first, Frank. I made a post on my Facebook page last week about how I lost everything I had in 2015. I woke up in the morning. I had a good bank account. I had my license. I had this. I had that. I had my own place. Everything was going good. Little did I know it, I was giving it all up pretty soon. Then the following day, it was all gone. I just got done telling that story to Russ Rinaldi last episode. We got into our recovery story. Hope people enjoyed that. Anyone that's struggling at all, please feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'll answer. I check out my messages. But I want to hear your fight, Frank. You told me, plain and simple, you raised your hand. Talked to you about it a bit last night to see if we could discuss it today. You lost everything. You had a business right out of the gate. You grew up in the area and went to Coughlin High School, and you went to Hanover, right?
I went to Hanover, then Coughlin. And then got into business.
And then I have it quoted here. School of Hard Knocks.
Yeah, man.
Like, that means a lot of different things to a lot of people. My school of hard knocks was getting sober. What was your school of hard knocks? And what did that lead to a brand new business, a successful business, but then something happened?
Yeah.
I want to find out what that is.
So I'll try to make this compact.
Okay.
But, growing up, there was a few people who were real inspirations to me. One of which, and I think I've shared this with him, but one of which is my uncle. This guy, I went to work for him when I was 12 years old, and my mom would make me go over there during the summers, and I would have to put in the time. He has a garage in the Nanticoke area, and it was your typical, you're going to change oil, you're going to change tires, you're going to sweep up. I was the garage grunt, mm-hmm. right? But I had to learn what I had to learn. And in that process, more than just sort of learning any job function, what became abundantly clear to me is that I loved watching him build that business. He had this little garage in Nanticoke, moved from that little garage to a bigger place, from that place to a bigger garage, which is now in Shaytown. And, he had that reputation too, that if you talk to him during the day, during work, he was a real tough guy. He was like a hard ass. He was kind of grumpy and miserable, and everybody sort of expected that. But as soon as 5 o'clock struck, right, he turned from boss to buddy, uncle, whatever it was. And I was like, how do you do that? Right. So the short of it is that's when I got bit by the bug to know that I think at some point in my life, man, I want to have my own thing. I don't know that I'm wired to work for somebody, but, and of course, at those couple of years that I worked there during the summers, I don't think I was old enough to have comprehended or understand what I wanted to do yet, or even know what I was good at. But I knew that there was something about that I was very attached to. So fast forward, right? You got to think to yourself, am I going to pursue the path of college? Do I want to, I had an opportunity to potentially go on and play college sports, but in my senior year, I got hurt, completely side railed, dislocated my shoulder, and it tore my rotator cuff. And basically any thoughts of playing college football right out the window.
That sucks,
right?
Frank.
Yeah, man. And it became really tough because, for somebody who, I knew what that meant to my family. I knew what college football was like. Penn State was a big thing for my family. And so I wanted to be that family member who went on to do that. It wasn't in the cards for me. And I think I probably got a little depressed from that. I got a little side railed. I would say to you that I certainly wasn't your stand-up kid. And got into not trouble and where I was put in jail or anything of the sort, but just got into a ton of trouble where I created a lot of unnecessary stress for my family. Then my mom, single mom, was constantly scared of what that next phone call was going to be.
Can I back that for 1 second? Was this your senior year that you were acting out, or after you graduated?
Okay, end of junior, end of senior year.
So football was over for you.
Yep.
Your junior year.
Yep.
That
yeah,
sucks.
man. And that's all I had to look forward to.
So now, going into your junior, you get hurt during the last football season or off season?
No, it was in a game.
As a sophomore?
It was in a game. It was Coughlin versus Berwick. There was 11,000 people crammed into the Wilkes-Barre Memorial Stadium.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. And I got called in. I played defensive tackle and fired off the line. And the way that I fell, as I went to stand up, my right arm was planted, and when I went to fall, I got hit from behind, and my hand stayed planted, and my shoulder just tore right out. And it was to the point where the trainer had to kind of put his knee on my hip and do the pop twist
Understood.
thing.
Yeah.
My grandfather ended up having to take me to the hospital. There was this whole bit, X-rays, the whole
I
bit.
get it.
It was a football career-ending thing for me. Let's put it that way.
Now we're in your junior senior year, and you're acting out. You're fed up. I get it.
Oh yeah, man.
So
I was getting into fights.
Yeah.
I was
different time to get into fights too. That's when you get into a fight, and the people are like, "You guys done with this now?"
Yeah.
Now
right.
now it's like you both go to jail. No one cares.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we were right on the cuff of that changing, right? Because this was 97.
Yeah, it was
right.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was a much different time. I mean, today you're either immediately going to get shot or, I mean, who knows what's going to happen, right? To your point, you just immediately go to jail, which on one end, good. Right? Good.
Sure.
Because I think people should have pause, right? I don't know that I would have fit well into today's society. So
I was the same way in school, Frank. Same way.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. So what got me into business then right after that was this idea that I did not want to pursue college.
Right after high school, right? You said you told me you got right into it.
I
so
did.
You're 18,
I had a friend.
19, fresh. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I had a friend that was working in the wireless communications business at the time. And if we all remember, it was Cellular One back on Munley Street. It was the days of Cellular One.
On Monday Street.
Yeah.
On Monday Street. Yeah. Everyone's saying it right now that just heard that.
That's funny because that was Van Scoy.
Yeah, Van Scoy to Diamond Mine.
We mimicked that ad.
Did you?
At one point. Yeah. Yeah. So, but anyway, it was, so my buddy had this job and we ended up exploring an option. Fast forward, we found an opportunity to mimic what Radio Shack was doing with these little kiosks selling cell phones within their stores. And at the time, it wasn't a big deal to have, there was none of these authorized retailers really. It wasn't a big thing. So we got into that concept. We got to talk to some of the big wigs in Harrisburg. And needless to say, we ended up opening up our first community-based store in Nanticoke on Lower Broadway. And you'll appreciate this. Because I always like to give a big shout out to Joe Pignataro, who he owned at the time. And for our listeners who were around back then, they'll remember he had on Sansui Highway a place called Renna's Pizza, but then he moved to Nanticoke and it was called La Rinamata's. And Joe Pignataro is a legend in my opinion. My grandfather loved Joe. I loved Joe. And it went something like this when I went to him with this business concept. He had next to his pizza shop, he had a little strip center, right? And it was like 3 little spaces or something. And so I talked to Joe, and he said, Frankie, he goes, I'm going to give you a space, but he goes, you're not going to pay me any money until you make money, okay? I want you to be successful. Right. And I was like, oh, Joe, I'm like, just how much is rent? We're going to do that. Like that. We have to do that. No. I love your grandfather. I love you. I see you. I know you since a baby. He goes, here's what you're going to do. Right. And
the voice is great. You're doing
it's Joe. When I'm saying it, yeah. I like literally hear Joe in my head. And his wife is so fantastic. Angela. I mean, like just what a great family. And so anyway, needless to say, Joe said, oh, hey, he goes, I'm going to give you this space, and so we went in there. We set up an entire, what looks like a cell phone store, right? That's what it was, but it looked like it was a branded store. And, within a month or so, that business took off. And I was able to pay him for almost a full year. My partner and I at the time were able to pay him for a full year's worth of rent. And I'll never forget that day too. That was like a big honor to me because, of course, my family was all at the time, like, they weren't very happy that I didn't pursue school and that I made the decisions I did. But I think my mom was finally like, well, at least he's doing something productive and he's not out getting into trouble anymore. This is his focus. So yeah. And right around that time, I also became a dad at a very young age. I was 17, just about to be 18.
Had to be scary.
Right. And, I became a dad. And so I've got this business thing. I'm now a new dad. I have all these pressures. And I think it's important to note that in the beginning, while I was doing that, I also, because I decided not to go to school, I needed to be able to save money. So I became a certified nurse's aide, and I worked in nursing homes simultaneously while I was starting my business. So I went down that road, and if there was ever a time in my life where I was going to learn empathy, that was it, man. That was a big game changer for me. But in building the business itself, I'll fast forward, that went from like 98 to about 2007. And we had built up. We had a number of stores people may remember in the area. We were at the Wyoming Valley Mall, Steamtown Mall, Viewmont Mall. At the time, it went from what was Wyoming Valley Cellular Systems to it became Monster Wireless, and that's what everybody remembered it as.
Definitely remember Monster Wireless.
That was us, man.
No shit.
Yeah. As a matter of fact,
I was everywhere.
Interesting.
Back when I used to watch commercials back in the day.
Yeah.
I haven't watched commercials anymore now. You watch commercials back then, 100%, man. And see the little mascot too, right? A little monster mascot, right?
So you
I'm thinking of monster.com possibly.
Yeah,
monster.com.
Okay. But we did locally for sure. We had a lot of advertisements, and that was a lot of the work that I was doing behind the scenes that started to connect the dots for me in regards to this is where my interests are. I'm doing something that I love doing, right? The advertising campaigns. You'd appreciate this. There was a big at the time, Sopranos was like a part of our lives, right? So we ran a whole campaign for our satellite TV division, and it was the forget about it. And it was we got a big picture of a very close up face of an old Italian guy who was just rugged looking, smoking a cigar.
I could picture it.
And it was black and white, and it was a full page ad that we were running everywhere. That crushed it. People connected to it. They loved it. And the feedback I got was so awesome that I was like, this is my path. So inevitably we had a bunch of locations. We spanned from PA up into New York. We were out in State College for a little bit of time there. I was driving back and forth to State College every single day to build out a store that we had there. And then we had Nittany Mall, and we were on College Ave. And that was my life for some time. And we were doing pretty well. Unfortunately, all of that led to a contract demise. And being in our position, we had positioned ourselves, without boring everybody for the long-winded story, we had positioned ourselves to be solely with one main provider.
Okay.
That provider made a big move, and it forced us into a very, very bad situation. There are other carriers, there are other companies that were doing what we were doing, and they also found themselves in a very precarious position. And so, I was often on the front lines working with all of our salespeople, my partner at the time, and that got ugly as well over time, which was a big part of our issue. But I learned a lot during that time, and inevitably what ended up happening was that we were put into a position where we had to close up shop, but we were attached to a lot of financial responsibility behind that. When you sign leases with malls, they're not okay with signing a lease for a year. They want long-term deals, unless you're going in for the holidays, right? And you can kind of do like one of those things. But we were attached to these things for long-term leases. We had external stores that our whole business model was contingent and thriving off of the model that we had in place. When they switched directions, it basically put us out of business or strong-held us to a point where we knew that we were going out of business. And so in a very short amount of time, everything came tumbling down. I lost my house. I lost the cars. I lost my kids' savings for school. We lost everything. And, it's hard because people who don't know what you're going through, who then were always the ones who were like, man, I wish you went to school. I wish you had a real job.
Jeez.
All of a sudden, you've got all of them who come up out of the woodwork, and rather than be supportive, they start reminding you of kind of what a piece of shit you are. And I thought, well, where were you when I was doing good? And I was able to get the house. I was able to have the cars. We were building a life. Like, I was able to put money away for the kids. Like, what was your position then? And that's the thing. It went from on one end, this is what I've learned in life, is just the ones who will support you always, right? But those people who have those types of opinions, it's either their way or no way. And it's either they are pointing the finger and laughing, or they're avoiding you because they're jealous. And I'm okay with that today.
100%, Frank. 100%. Those are the people that I don't want to be around anymore.
Yeah.
You don't want to be around anymore.
Not
Brian
at all.
doesn't want to be around them anymore.
Not at all.
It's taking my high energy level, and they want to suck from it. Just to put me down.
And
just
look,
to put you down. They're like, fuck that shit, man. It drives me crazy.
Yeah. Well, but here's the thing, right? So I don't hold it against them because they don't know any better, right? I think we're all wired different. There are some people who are just wired to be conformed people. Those are the ones who just, they're going to stay in their path. They're going to follow that path. And, maybe at some point in their life, they start to realize, I'm not real happy. Right. I think at a young age, I needed to follow that thing that I told you I got bit when I was at my uncle's garage. Mm-hmm. I could not have gone and continued to work for people. I worked in a pizza shop as a kid. Anybody who remembers Casey's that was down on Scott Street in Wilkes-Barre? I mean, I worked there as a kid. I was 15 years old. I was washing dishes and tossing dough. And that's what I did there. I worked at different restaurants. I worked at different jobs, but I was working as a kid. Work ethic was not my problem. Still, definitely not my problem, right? If anything, I'm sometimes maybe putting too much into my work and not living enough. But then when you're doing these things, people look at you like you're misappropriating your time. Imagine if you went to school, you did all that. Okay. So when I failed, that came crashing down on me, not only from a life slapping you in the face, and then you got all this shit to deal with. My wife now, right? She's everything to me. She's my best friend. She was with me when we went through that. It was tough because she had explaining to do to her family, because of course her family was very concerned. What's happening, of course, anybody wants the individual, that your child marries, right? You want to know, especially I think if it's a daughter, you want to know that they're taking care of them. And I think at that time it got very nerving, and they were seeing all of the stuff that we were going through. And we had to do a mad dash to get all of our stuff together, pack it all up into a moving truck because the sheriff's department was coming to take our house. And I don't know how she stayed with me throughout all of that, but she's still with me today. And I am extremely blessed to have her. And I think today I can say she's blessed to have me too, but then I would have questioned it. I certainly questioned it. Mm-hmm. And so when you want to talk about hitting rock bottom, man, that's where it was for me. It was looking around and, trying to find any rope to pull me out. And where I thought ropes would be, they weren't. A big shout out to my parents, my mom and my stepfather. Man, like,
I know, Frank,
they stepped up,
yeah,
right? And they didn't, it wasn't easy for them, but they stepped up. And from a financial standpoint, they really were our heroes. My wife's parents, in whatever way they could, they attempted to help. They didn't just blackball me, essentially. It was a lot of discomfort, a lot of shame as a father. Because I felt that my daughters had watched me do what I was doing, come home late, all that. And then you go, that's what happens when you put in that kind of work. Right. So it didn't make sense to them yet, because they were so young, but to see us lose it all. We had a nice house. We had a yard with a pool. We had, we had the old American, dream, essentially. We lost it all. And we ended up having to move over to this little apartment in West Pittston. And that's where essentially the grind had to start back up. But, there was a time, and I told you last night, I don't know if you wanted to go there, but you want to talk about the extreme.
Yeah, because you mentioned it, and I get that, because you tell your part of the story first, and I'm going to get into mine, and then we'll shift gears into the meat.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear the part that you mentioned last night, please.
Yeah.
That's the true fight. The true fight.
It was, man. And it's strange because this will be officially the first time that I'm ever talking publicly about it. My family, people who are close to me, they know about it. But it was a time that was really hard. And when you're trying to wrap your head around your own purpose, you're trying to convince yourself that all the stuff you did was not a waste, and that you're not a big loser, and that you are in fact a good father, that you can be a good husband, that you can be a good family member, a good friend. I wasn't convinced of any of it because I felt like I just completely destroyed what everybody else had in mind. And that I somehow, because of my selfish decisions to gamble on going into business, that now in some capacity, I'm going to pull everybody else down with me. So I found myself getting a hold of a revolver and sitting in a car. For those people who know Suskin Road, if you take Suskin Road all the way up, it leads to a dirt road called Pittston Road. And Pittston Road used to drive back to a place where we would all know is called the Vista. It's literally a lookout point up in the middle of the woods. But that Pittston Road it's just a dirt road. And I went back there and sat in a car, and I think the dialogue that was in my head was, am I courageous enough to do this thing? And looking back, man, what a crazy thing to say that. It's a bit nuts. The story that I'm going to tell you now is going to sound fabricated because it's that far-fetched. Which is why I've always hesitated on telling the story in public, basically, because somebody would be like, oh, please, right? If I heard that story today, I would still think the same thing. But I did get myself to a point where I convinced myself that this is the thing that I'm going to do. And I needed my mom to know that I thought to myself, I don't want to be found by a stranger. I wanted my mom to at least know where I was. My mom had been like a best friend to me growing up. She was a single mom. We got very close. My brother and we were very close with my mom. And, I felt that I was doing her a tremendous injustice by doing this, but I felt that it was the better thing. I did call my mom, and I let her know what was happening. And, it was a bunch of tears, a bunch of all that was happening. That's tough to even think about now, because in that moment it was like, man, like that's so sad to be in that position. But that's what it was. And my mom begged and pleaded, and I was still convinced that I was doing the favor. And then I attempted to do it. And I don't know, by whatever you want to call it, divine intervention or whatever that is, but the revolver jammed and it did not go off. And so fast forward, when I came to my senses essentially after that, because that shook me to the bone, in looking at the revolver outside of the car, it fired off into the ground. And so what didn't happen in the car happened outside the car. And there was this, like, I can't explain.
Snapped out of it.
I can't explain what happened, but I just started crying. And the first thing that I needed to do was be around my family. And I guess you could say that was my official rock bottom. Was
that the moment you decided that you wanted to live?
Oh, for sure.
After the outside part? I mean, that had to be it right there.
For sure, because the question about, do I have purpose? Do I right? Somehow something went off in my head that said, well, I don't know if I believe in things happen for a reason, but at that moment, suddenly I had this profound realization that maybe that's true. And how could that possibly have happened because if it was meant to happen, then I think that would have just happened. And the idea that it didn't happen and the way that it didn't happen shook me to the bone and woke me up and gave me a realization that I'm here for something. And now I got to go find out what that is. And I have the integrity. I have the angst. I've taken myself against odds and built something before. I could assure you the one thing that I said I wasn't going to do was have a partner. I was moving forward 100% on with whatever I did by myself. And I needed to know that I was in control of what was going on around me at all times. And so, yeah, I mean, inevitably I did take a job for a little while, and I worked for an engineering firm, and I did business development there, and that was a cool project. But that brings me full circle to where I realized what I was good at, what I wanted to do. And that's how I started my company it was in the front room of my home, desk, laptop, and a dog. And I want to say this too, because I think this is really important. And I miss my grandparents greatly. It really mattered to me to make them proud with everything that I do. My grandmother, after my grandfather passed away, my grandmother moved in with my mom, and she she knew my whole story. She was obviously very attached to everything that was happening, and she was always a cheerleader for me. When I was at odds with my parents at one point, she was the person who, when I walked into my mom's kitchen and we were at odds, and my grandmother looked across the room at me and whispered the words, "I love you." She mouthed it to me. It was just to let me know that somebody still cared and still somebody had hope and love in me. And that stuck with me forever. I actually told that story in her eulogy at her funeral. She was a very, very impactful person in my life. And when I was in the position to start my business, there was something that I was in a position where I needed to get a laptop. I needed to get the equipment that I needed, and I had a pending opportunity because I had found a client that needed my services right away, but I needed the right equipment to do it, and really money was super tight then. Mm-hmm. And so my gram, she heard me talking to my mom about it, and she said, "I'll give you the money." She said, "but I'm not giving it to you." She said, "You're going to pay me back." And that's incredibly important. I said, "Are you serious?" I'm like, I have a job right now, right? And it was this client that I was locking in a deal, and it was an $8,000 contract. She gave me $2,500 to go get my computer and do what I needed to do. And 4 days later, I handed her back $2,500. And she looked at me, and it was one of the most powerful moments of my life, because not only was my mom like utterly surprised, but my grandma looked at me and she got a tear in her eye, and she said, "I knew you can do it." And then it was all uphill from there. It was just this build. So
I love that. I got a little tear in my eye. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, man.
I told her before when I was talking to Russ, a purpose here, especially after a life-changing event where we feel down on ourselves. You expressed very clearly how you felt, worthless, no reason to go on. What's the purpose? They're better off without me, because what if I fail again? What if I do this again? What if I rip everything off from them again, right? When I got in trouble and I got into a car accident, I was laying in the hospital, I was wondering why God didn't finish me off. Like, why didn't you just let that truck just smash right through the car instead of me laying here with this glass in my arm, right? And immediately my answer came to me. God left you alive to live the life you've been wasting. That's it. Now it's my job to figure it out. And ever since that exact day, because I was about a month before that, because then I got tested again. I had that feeling. And I told myself after that, I said the little prayer every night. And I always ask, anytime I'm in trouble, God, get me through this. No matter what it was, God, just get me through this. It could be whatever, right? Not too long later, I started treatment court. I go for my drug test in the morning. It was hard for me to piss in front of people. The first time I always got locked up because I couldn't go to the bathroom. Not because I was going to be, not that I was doing drugs. I just couldn't pee in the cup because they're watching me and they were getting tired of it. They're going to put me in jail for the weekend thinking I wasn't being compliant. Well, I was finally able to go. And then next time I had a call to get my color, remember I'm driving to Scranton. I didn't lose my driver's license yet. I'm driving to Scranton and I went past the Scranton Expressway exit. I said, fuck this. I got the money from my car accident. I had about $6-7 grand in the bank. I had a rental car. I said, fuck this. I went past the exit. I go, I'm not going there. I'm going. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere. I can't deal with this right now. I don't want to deal with it. 2 years of this, how am I going to make it? Not realizing that I'm 4 and 5 months sober. And that was the hardest thing in my life just to get to that point. I drove, kept on driving. Thought it was the best idea. Something went robotic in me. I got off Drinker Street, came back around, got on the highway, went to Scranton, got in the probation office, took a piss in the cup, left and said, you could do this. You have no choice. Where are you going to go? They're going to find you. You'll be dumb enough to use your credit card. You'll be dumb enough to do this. Don't be stupid. Be responsible. It's time for you to pay your penance. And that was it. Just those smallest things.
I'm going to pull that apart next week in our episode.
Okay. Yeah, please.
So I'm looking forward to hearing the whole story as well.
Yeah. So there's times in our lives where we're tested. I believe we're tested no matter who's doing the testing. I always say, God's looking down on you, but the devil's looking up at you too. And they both win every once in a while, but it depends on how you pull yourself out to go upwards and not fall down to hell. Because I've been there before and I never want to go back. I always say, you're a gambler or maybe an ex-gambler. I always said my best, you enjoy it.
Let's be clear. I'm not the guy you're going to catch at the blackjack
100%.
tables per se.
100%.
I love poker.
Yeah, I love the gamble too. People love it. It's the excitement of it, right? But there's ways to do it, ways not to do it. As a dealer, right. For 9 years, I saw the way you're not supposed to do it, right? But what I'm getting at is I totally had a mind blank right there.
Oh, so
blank right there.
Well, I'm sorry. You were saying you're a gambler.
Yeah. So when you're gambling and I totally forgot what I was going to say. It was so good too. Fuck. What were we talking about before that? About
just before the gambling, it was you were talking about the intervention essentially of from life perspective, right? Yeah. So it's like you said about the moment that the devil.
Yeah. So there's been times where there's lane A, there's lane B, and which one we going down now? Along those paths that I've been on, I got off the path wrong a lot, but I found my way back, and I asked God just to keep me on that path every single day, and I know He has, but the devil wants to chime in every once in a while, bro. I still forgot what I was going to say. It's okay. It might come back to my mind, but it's all good.
Yeah, but I think I get the point that you're making there. I mean, it's this idea that no matter what you're thinking about doing in life, right? There's always the positive influence. There's the good things. Mm-hmm. There's the challenge of it's not necessarily that you're being influenced to do the wrong thing. It's I think that when we refer to the devil, right? I think that the devil is just talking you out of doing the good things. Mm-hmm. You doing bad things, not being honest, deciding to play on your selfish, desires, whatever that might be dishonest, be disloyal. In my opinion, like that's your decision, right?
You have to want to do something.
It's literally why I hold people accountable today, and how I determine my relationships with people. There's two main things in my life. It's truth and trust, right? And if those two things aren't capable of being introduced or included in a relationship with somebody, I literally want nothing to do with it. I've gotten myself to a point, just unhealthy relationships with people, being around the wrong people, to having the wrong type of business partner, wrong type of, even in this business here, there's a number of the wrong kind of clients that we've had. I think as you continue to develop, you continue to build, it's about understanding that truth and trust are those two things. One, I will always tell you the truth. I will always make decisions based on the truth. And two, I trust implicitly in whatever it is that in my relationship, I trust that one, that person never has ill intentions. The day that I start to think that they have ill intentions, I'm going to confront it. And if it doesn't get clarified, I'm moving on. And that might be hard for some people to be like, yeah, it's not that easy. It is today for me. It is today. And that's why I'm at the same time that you think, boy, I wish I didn't have to go through things like that. And those who were handed the golden spoon or the golden cup, right? I'm glad I didn't have that path. I don't think that I would have an understanding of people about my street smarts today. Mm-hmm. And I've been complimented a lot on that in certain scenarios where you can see very intelligent people surrounding themselves around a conversation and not being able to work through the thing that's about to kick them right in their balls. Mm-hmm. And then you go, guys, nobody's looking out for this. And all of a sudden everybody opens up their eyes and goes, holy shit, how did you see that? You know why? Because I got kicked before. Yeah. Because I know I see that smells of trouble. Mm-hmm. And so I'm grateful for it, right? And I don't have to be cliche, but it's that saying, the lemon's the lemonade factor. I think that's what defines you. It's how you take those falls and what you do with that and how you progress. You absorb those lessons and then you go and you move on, and that honestly, man, like that is probably a big contributing factor. I mean, this pile of meat here, it's probably a big contributing factor as to why I've been able to flip the switch and get a hold of my health and get my life back now, because it was starting to go down a hole where, and it had a lot to do with me not understanding things. But basically, I needed to change my relationship with food, and understand what was happening to me, and that's what this is all about.
Let's get in. That's a great intro right into it. We got Tony. We got Tony Soprano in the. Oh, did you know what the duck was for?
That's the pool, right?
This guy didn't know what the duck was for.
Tony Soprano had the ducks in the pool.
I remember.
Bri.
He remembered, but he forgot. And I was thinking, hey,
oh boy.
I was saying that when the duck flew away, that's when Tony fell for the first time.
Yeah.
And Meadows like him and those ducks. Best show ever made. Best show ever made, Soprano. I watched it about 25 times. You ever notice, ever watch it again? Maybe I've noticed it 5 or 6 times so far. Tony's shirts, the one shirt he has on, little tiny Tabasco sauce bottles.
No,
if you pause it, take a screenshot and zoom in, you see little Tabasco bottles. There's other shirts with little spatulas.
Yeah.
So it's like his Italian design shirt with the lines. And you can't really, you just think they're straight lines or wavy lines, but some of them are the little Tabasco bottles.
I love it.
Or I'm like, little Tabasco bottles out there?
I did not know that. That's a neat little side. Have you ever been to Sopranos Con or Mob Con?
I don't know how I missed Sopranos Con last time, but if they have it again, I'm going to go. I had the Pizza Hulk on my podcast last year. He's from Jersey. He makes ice cream in the place they had the last final scene on. What's the name of it?
So do you? I'm gonna. What's his name? Frederico Castellucci. Is that his name?
Which character was that?
Frederico Castellucci. I think I'm saying his last name right. He played Furio, the
Furio,
ponytail from Italy.
Yeah.
So he's buddies with a buddy of mine.
Okay.
And anyway, we were his guests to SopranoCon.
Oh, I love that.
We got taken in
I got to go to it next time.
I'm going to show you the photos.
Okay. I'm jealous.
We were all. I met all these guys. Oh,
Absolutely love that.
I was bummed because I didn't get to meet Paulie Walnuts before he passed.
Oh no,
he was there. He got sick. He wasn't able to make the second day or whatever.
I should have went to Sopranos.
Yeah. It's super cool though. I got all the pictures, man.
Yeah.
Johnny Sachs and all the guys.
We'll have to check it out if it ever comes again.
We will. We'll definitely.
100%.
For
100%.
sure.
So we got about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 pounds of beef in front of me.
There's a lot more.
This is all you eat. This is all you eat.
Not just beef. I mean, to
I understand
be fair,
that. To be you eating meat. You're a carnivore.
I eat all meat. But
you said relationship with food.
Yeah.
How was your relationship with food? When did you notice? So just at the table.
Yep.
No pun intended again.
Yeah, right.
So you showed me a picture before. I was going to ask to see you before a picture. You showed Russ before. You're 500 pounds?
Over.
So you're over 500 pounds?
Yeah, I don't know by much because full transparency, a little bit of vulnerability here. Once I broke 500, I wasn't looking at a scale anymore.
I understand, man.
So I would probably tell you between 500, 515. I'll bet you that's right around where I was.
So I can relate to that, Frank. Like I didn't get there, but I was headed there. When I got sober, I turned to food. Next thing you know, I blink my eyes. It's 6, 7, 8 months into me being sober. I'm 265 pounds. You sit down on the toilet and your back hits up against it. I couldn't fit a pair of shorts over my legs. And it was just like, okay, I'm sober, great. But now my addictive personality took over. Now I'm eating everything in the world. I have to stop it. And I did stop it.
When you look down and you don't see your prized possession anymore.
It's hard enough to begin with.
Come on.
It's hard to see enough to begin with. But at least I get an eyeball out of it.
Yeah. Well.
I get it, Frank.
Yeah, no, look, it was my relationship with food my entire life has been a bit of a challenge.
Did that peak after that wireless business went? Or was it there from high school? Could you look back at your life and was there a particular incident, maybe the football in high school? Was there a particular incident that took that into overdrive? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, so I don't know that I guess here's the best way for me to explain what I understand of myself today. If I look back at where it all started in my relationship with food, I would tell you that like most families, right? We are all growing up in a house where birthdays or food is celebratory. You get your snack foods. We used to do Friday night pizza nights and Monday, and then you'd have the snacks. You go to the movies. My grandma was putting chocolates in the purse and bringing them in. You had to have the candy. Like my grandfather loved cooking. I love cooking. It was this sort of. It was a romantic relationship with food my entire life that was being misappropriated in my life because instead of using it as a resource, instead of recognizing it as something that fuels my body as nutrition, I didn't even focus on that. My mom used to hide food in the dishwasher when I was a kid. In the days of playing football, she would hide Doritos and all that stuff in the dishwasher because she knew, one, I wasn't going to do the dishes. So that was probably where I would never go and find dishes until one day I decided to be a good son and try to do the dishes. And I was like, when the hell did this turn into the snack drawer? And that was it. It was all downhill. I mean, I was the kid who was in mini football wearing garbage bags.
You mentioned that. I used to do the same thing, bro.
I had to make weight because you're on the ABC team, so whatever team it was, you had to make the weight. I was running with garbage bags as a kid.
I know. Think about you can't do that shit today.
No, I don't think so.
You're like child abuse.
I mean, I would imagine in some capacity, like in high school, you
now they have
got to make
sweatsuits.
weight for.
Now they have sweatsuits for that. Now.
Well, probably But I'm saying like you got to make weight, right? Mm-hmm. Like I think there's still weight classes, but I don't know. Making a kid run around in a garbage bag, I don't know if that's still okay. I don't know, but hey, it was part of me.
I know. I did it too.
But I think that looking back and you say, hey, you can't have this.
Oh yeah.
As soon as I became an adult, and I was like, well, there's nobody to tell me that anymore, right? So I want to go out for pizza. I'm going to have pizza. And not just 2 pieces. I'm going to clobber that thing.
I'm going to get a pizza.
A buddy of mine, DJ, he'll know when he watches this. DJ and I used to order Domino's pizza to his parents' house. We would watch dumb movies, right? And we would both get our own pizzas and just crush them. And then probably go out for wings or something after that. And of course, when you're younger, your metabolism is burning. You're doing all sorts of things. You're outside. I wasn't the kid sitting in the house playing video games. We were always out doing stuff. So, and I played sports. So I think my metabolism was a lot better, albeit that I still carried extra weight. Later in life, after you have injuries that come creeping back. I was a power lifter as well, right? So I remember when the injury from high school, then as I was continuing to go on and power lift in the gym, there was a day where I was in the gym and went to do a straight barbell press, and it wasn't lightweight, right? I'm hitting my maxes, and all of a sudden I heard this crack, snapple, pop, if you will, and my whole elbow buckled. The barbell came crashing down on me. I had to do the whole roll off to shake the weights off, and I was never the same after that. And so today, what was torn rotator cuff, turned tendonitis, turned arthritis at 45, that stuff comes creeping back up on you. Plus, as I started putting on all that weight, you get issues in your knees, you get lower back pain, and throughout the just day to day, right? And my whole life it's been this roller coaster of put on weight, lose weight. Years ago, I did the Atkins diet. In 11 months, I lost 90 pounds. But I can tell you this, throughout my entire journey of doing that, all I wanted to do was eat, and I was miserable as shit because everything that I would crave normally, I continued to crave. But I just quite literally had the mindset of, I'm going to do this. I'm determined. It was a time in my life where I was going to get, I was prepping because I was going to ask my fiance then to get married, who's my wife now. So we were going to Vegas. I was making a big deal about it. Which, by the way, was a fun story. I proposed to her on one of the gondolas.
Oh, nice.
I made a big deal. People were throwing flowers and shit.
I love that.
But I knew pictures would be taken, and I didn't want to be all plumped up. So I did. I lost 90 pounds. And then losing 90 pounds for me put me at like 220 lean, right? I'll show you pictures of that. It'll blow your mind. But then life takes place. And my relationship with food then, came back into play again, right? And especially after I'd going through Atkins and remembering how incredibly miserable I was for that, albeit that I felt great physically. I hated it.
It was like you were being tortured every day because the problem with Atkins is, one, people get turned on to it because you do it for the first week. I lost 10 pounds. This is great. You lost 10 pounds of water. You didn't go into that big of a deficit for that long. I get you feel a little bit lighter, but now the work's going to start.
Right.
Now you have to come into that you still have to count your calories. Still got to come into that calorie number. The problem with Atkins diet is it's not focused around protein. It's focused around plants, more vegetables, right?
It was a mix. It was a lot of zero carb.
Right. Zero carbs, but
And then you had to learn. I remember a big part of the learning curve for me at the time was the restriction of carbs and understanding which vegetables, fruits, etc., played a role, because there's your complex carbs, then there's your simple carbs, and starting to try to wrap my head around that. It all became like, ugh, come on.
Then you're in ketosis. You don't feel good.
Didn't focus on that then.
You don't. That wasn't even really a thing.
No,
ketosis
not the way I learned.
That was the idea behind Atkins, is to be zero carb, to go.
I don't think that they had then when I was doing it. I don't think that they had the ability for you to measure ketones like they do today.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, I went on that. I had that journey, and then literally for years after that, all I did was put all that weight back on and then some.
You know what happens when, in my opinion, in the field that I'm in, when you start to restrict foods, specifically one specific diet. So you're on the carnivore, All right. It's working for you. Obviously you're into it. We're going to get into that. The difference between the Atkins and the Carnivore, right? Yep. When you tell somebody goes back when you were being a kid, you can't have that. Fuck you.
Yeah.
I can have it. I can have it now. I can have as many Cadbury eggs as I want to have.
Well, there's a mental game to it for sure.
Yeah. And me personally, I have a sweet tooth. Once I release that, I want sweets for days. I left my house and just to go get a Gatorade in the middle of the night. I'm like, I don't need a Gatorade because I was eating sugar for a couple of days. Then I got to turn it off for a little while, and I'm good for a couple of days.
You're just telling my story.
Yeah.
You know how many midnight runs I went on?
Yeah.
Like you go to the fridge and you open it up and you're like, Then Turkey Hill, Sheets, wherever.
Yeah.
Right? You're just making your runs.
Yeah.
But why?
Because the willpower, our own. For me personally, I just had that thought in my head, and that a little bit of OCD-ish in my head. I want that fucking thing now. I want it.
Yeah, but I think that a big part of it, Brian, in my opinion, is that, and I think it's proven. So I don't know, it's just necessarily my opinion, but I indeed believe that the sugar, the carbohydrates, you have a physical addiction to it.
Oh, 100%.
Right? And what does that do to your mental well-being, right? Because here's what I could tell you. If there was ever going to be a person who was not going to be able to make a shift to changing the way they eat and stay on that, right? Obviously, to be determined. I'm 15 months into it. I've never gone that long. And I'm just shy of 150 pounds down with next to no physical activity other than walking. Occasionally going to the gym. I'm going to pick that up. That's a part of my agenda this year. But being into it this far and having experienced that, and I agree with you, water weight's going to be the first thing that you lose. But right there, lies exactly where you need to be focused. Because why are you going through pain? Why are you carrying that water? What is that, right? That's the thing that prohibits people from getting healthy. That inflammation, that water weight, that's all coming from the food that you eat. That's the bad shit, right? And when you're inflamed, your body just stops working the way it should from a burning energy perspective. You shift, right? You shift from using your own body to produce glucose. You shift to now relying on this supplemented intake of sugar. And so your body stops doing that. That's the whole concept of that I had to learn around what does it mean to be insulin resistant? What does it mean when you see a spike in insulin? What's happening, right? And I think that what got me excited about doing this was learning about, I didn't go at it to say, how do I lose weight? Right. I literally was very active with my crew out and about doing things, carrying stuff, right. Being a part of production. I loved all of that when we were running around in the very beginning before I even had the crew. And it was just Brian and I was very involved in that. It got to a point, man, where I couldn't walk for more than 50 feet without being like, I got to sit down. I got to lean against something or whatever. Right. And a big part of the funny piece of the story here about how I ended up on Carnivore, really, there's some irony in this, is that it was a vegan restaurant that forced me to go carnivore. That's how I like to tell the story for fun purposes. The short of that is that I was in Raleigh, North Carolina, where my parents live, and we were visiting for Christmas like we do every year. And there's a vegan restaurant that's in downtown Raleigh. My sister, at the time, she was primarily plant-based, super excited, by the way. Shout out to Michelle and her husband Dylan, because they're now doing carnivore. They've been inspired. So I'm super excited about that. But primarily plant-based at the time, and she wanted to go to this restaurant in downtown Raleigh. And so I said, fine, I'll go. I hadn't been I wasn't doing anything healthy yet, but I did have the mind of knowing, and always felt anxious everywhere we would go. That's where I got myself to. Carrying around over 500 pounds is not easy. And so we went I drove. I always drove because if I got in somebody else's car, I'd be like,
sure what's going to happen.
God
right?
damn, I'm not going to fit. I don't know how this is going to be. So I had my bigger Yukon right at the time. It was the only vehicle I could really go with that I knew I was going to be comfortable in. And so anyway, we all hopped in. We all drove down, and they were like, "Oh, there's a restaurant." And as I'm driving, we're driving past it, and I'm looking, and I'm like, "Where's the parking?" Right? And the parking is way down the street, and I got to park in this public lot. I'm probably exaggerating. It's now I wouldn't even think about it. Then I'm like, oh my God, I got to do this walk. Right. And that's how crazy it is, man. It really got a hold of me. And so we parked in the public parking. And of course, I said, I'm like, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. All right. I'll see you there. Well, like 5 times. And my wife's walking with me the whole time. I got to stop. I got to lean. I got to sit. My back is killing me. I'm sweating my ass off. I get to this vegan restaurant. We go into the bathroom. I went into the bathroom and I was like, I got to get my shit together. I'm like, I was dripping. I was embarrassed of what other people would be seeing there. And that was it, man. I looked up in the mirror. I caught myself in the mirror. And it was right at that moment when I was like, what are you doing? Like, really, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. This is fucked up.
Yeah.
You got to get a hold of yourself, bud. Like, what the fuck? And it was right after that. I went out. I sat at the table, and I proclaimed it right then and there. I said to everybody, I was like, "This is it. I'm doing this. I'm gonna get healthy. I'm gonna do this. It's gonna start." And so that was literally the start of it. And why did I determine to go into carnivore? Because I had done a lot of homework on what would help me with inflammation, what would help me remove that, because that was the thing that in my head I said, well, if I can get rid of the pain, I can get active again. And then I will feel the motivation to continue to get healthier. But it was this idea that every time I wanted to do something, that instance of, I know I'm going to be in pain, I'm not going to be able to do it, I avoided going to the gym because of what that would do for me. I was a mess. I said, I'm going to give carnivore diet a try, and I'm going to see if this works. I'm going to end up right back at ground zero if that's whatever. But within the first 2.5 weeks, man, like all of my inflammation, I can't say all of it, a bulk of my inflammation went away. I went from not being able to walk like 50 feet to my 3rd week in, went for a mile walk, had only a little bit of sweat on my brow. And I'm like, what is this? I mean, it's so crazy because it's everything we're told not to do. Red meat's going to give you cancer. Your cholesterol is going to go skyrocket. Your arteries are going to get clogged. You're going to have a heart attack. Like, you're not getting all the nutrients you need. All of those things are hocus pocus, man. And it's a shame that that's how we're brought up. I've learned, and I still continue to learn, but I've learned a lot about what carnivore diet does for us. I learned a lot about how it works in our bodies. I learned a lot about how the other foods work against us. It all makes sense to me now. And what I think is really helping me be successful in this is not only how I feel, but because sensibly I understand how food works with us now. And if I do something in opposition, I go, why? Because it'd be no different than saying, like, well, you shouldn't drive drunk. Hey, man, don't do drugs. Like, food is just as deadly, but we don't want to talk about that. And I do now. I want to talk about that. I think people need to realize that it is deadly, and we need to figure out how to get healthy. We need to adjust our relationship with food. We need to think about the thing that really drew me to it and mostly attracted me to it was not just because of what it would do for an inflammation purposes, but the dumbed down rational version. In our primal beings, who were we? How did we get food? Right? And in most situations, vegetation wasn't available year round, right? We would hunt and we would be okay until we got to the next hunt. So if we got our animal, we would eat it. We would eat that animal from nose to tail. We would consume and get all of the nutrients that we need from that entire animal. All of the vitamins, all the nutritional value that we need is in that ruminous animal. That is, in fact, true. And so the other part of it that we're told, don't eat so much fat, saturated fat. Oh, my God, that's terrible for you.
Don't eat butter or lard. Have Crisco instead.
Come on, man.
It's sane.
Right? So
insane.
When you eat fat, it helps you get satiated. When you don't consume all the other stuff, the fat works like it should. Fat and protein together are the healthiest combination that you could have in your diet. And you don't even have to work hard at understanding how much to consume, because it will tell you. Mm-hmm. Your gut, when not clouded by judgment through sugar, through starchy carbs, through all the crap, all the oxalates, all the shit that you put in your body through GMO-based stuff, it's so bad, right? And all your gut is trying to do is protect you. So what I've been able to learn and what I understand now is that when you eat clean and you allow your gut the transition time, because, man, is that a mess, right? I remember when I first converted to carnivore, it was like the first 3 weeks, I was like asking myself, am I doing the right thing? I was in the bathroom constantly. Like it was rough. But yeah. And now I have an understanding too, like it's not to be extreme. It's to have an understanding of where you source your food, what your food eats, so on and so forth. I will mostly consume grass-fed, grass-finished beef. If I'm eating chicken, I try to get a hold of pasture raised. I want them eating worms and bugs. I want them eating the stuff that they're supposed to be eating. I don't want them eating corn, grain fed, crap shit, because it's in their body. You are what you eat, they say, right? And you are what you eats. So you're gonna get the byproduct from that, essentially. And so just a lot of what I've learned throughout this journey of mine, and of course losing almost 150 pounds now. I mean, that's not all water weight, man. Like, that's a shit ton of fat right in there.
100%.
And I don't crave anything, but I don't like. You could put a pizza in front of me. You could put pasta in front of me. I'll tell you that smells incredible, right? And will I tell you that I miss it? Sure, man. Just like an alcoholic would miss a beer if they smell it, right? But they know better, and that's just where I'm at now. And will I say to you that like I was a full-fledged food addict? I was definitely addicted to food. That was my relationship. Would I tell you that I thought that I didn't need any traditional sense of rehab or something for it, right? Like, but I should have. I just didn't know, and I was fortunate enough to hit that rock bottom without that rock bottom being a flat line on a heart monitor. And it's funny because some people will be like, well, you're on carnivore, so that ain't too far away. I've gotten my blood tests. I keep checking on my blood at home, right? I check my ketones. I check my blood sugar. I regularly talk to the doctors. I've been monitored this whole time, right? My doctors have literally said there is something to be learned from this. I've spoken to a nutritionist who I wanted because I wanted my whole family to feel better. And just because of the dialogue of the conversation, I don't want to shout her out, but she was very much influential and very much helpful. But she likes to predominantly push a plant-based approach. And when I went to her with this, she, by the end of 2 hours, said that she was incredibly impressed with how much knowledge I had around this, that I was clearly on the right path. It was working for me. And look, I agree. If all you do is just get off of and move to a whole food diet as a start, you can explore whatever you want to explore, but you're already 90% better than you were by eating all that shit food that you were eating before. And not everybody has a metabolism that shuts down and you end up with all the weight gain. Maybe your metabolism is good and you do burn the weight. Maybe that's it. But you know what? What other underlying problems are you dealing with? What other kind of gut issues, skin issues, whatever else, right? There's a number of things that could be happening to you. People, Brian, I started Carnivore 15 months in. I guess knock on wood if you believe in that. But knock on wood, I was sick with COVID once, and it lasted 2 days, and all the symptoms were gone. I would, on a normal, have a common cold every 3 to 4 weeks throughout the entire winter season. I've not been sick once.
No shit.
Throughout, not once.
That's great.
It's unbelievable. My inflammation markers way down, right? Still carrying inflammation markers because I still have extra weight. I got still a long way to go. Mm-hmm. But having been over 500 pounds and weighing in at 357 this morning, I'm all set, man. Like there's no stopping me at this point.
You're motivated.
I am.
You're motivated because you're seeing results, but the hardest part is staying motivated before the results come.
And I didn't want to weigh myself for a long time. Like the only reason that I weighed myself was because if I'm being fully transparent, because again this is uncomfortable, but a conversation I just had with a friend of mine is that I've lost a tremendous amount of weight and I'll continue to lose a tremendous amount of weight staying on this. I'm going to end up with a lot of extra skin.
You're losing is slow though.
I am,
which
doesn't matter. I could see it now. Like
okay,
if I don't have a shirt on, you can see the extra skin.
You can take care of that when the time comes, bro.
Well, but a part of that is that you got to meet the right weight standards so that they can put you under.
Whereas literally it has to be just skin. There can't be any.
Well,
fat
they can do
very
that.
Very minimum.
Yeah, very minimum. But they care more about if they put you under. They need to know that you're at the right body weight for you to be able to in a healthy way put you under and not be concerned that you're gonna kick it. So that said, that was a reason why I was like, all right, well, there's some stuff that I want to do medically that I'm going to think about. I should probably get an idea of where I'm at so I understand my BMI so I could report that. So I decided that's when I was going to do it, and I was pleasantly surprised at how much I had lost. I've been going by how I feel. I was wearing 6X shirts. I'm down to 3X shirts.
That's going to feel amazing.
I was wearing a 54 pant. I'm down to almost a 42 now. You say that 42, Frank, real fast, real quick story. You had your intervention with yourself that time at the parking lot and the vegan dinner. Yeah, man.
You had to walk down to the fucking bathroom. You're in the bathroom and you looked in that mirror and you had that whatever you want to call it.
Epiphany.
I'm like, I can't go on like this. When I got sober, I gained a lot of weight. Now it's the summertime, and I was about 260. I'm about a year into getting sober. I just lost my driver's license, right? I went to American Eagle with my mother and my niece, and I couldn't fit into a pair of 42s over my legs. My legs were so big. I couldn't fit into a pair of khaki shorts. Remember, I left. I got right out of there, went in the back and sat in the back of my mother's Jeep, and I cried to myself. I said, this is it. I'm going to buy that bike off that kid in one of my meetings. I'm going to ride the bike to the gym. I don't care if I get my license back in December. I'll ride that bike to the gym. I don't care. I have to do it every day. And I did. I lost all the weight that I put on. I knew how to do it. I just got carried away. I got obsessed with eating. I was trying to hang on to being sober the first year. And those worlds collided. But being 260, 265 for me, I was huge. I was so uncomfortable. I couldn't walk around like that anymore, man. I get it, And as a personal trainer, when I specialize in weight loss, and I know what they're going through. I'm training ladies now; they're overweight, but I have empathy for it because I know what they're going through. I'm not a 6'1", bulked up bodybuilder who's been in shape his whole life that doesn't know what it's like to be overweight. Telling, just stop. Listen, it ultimately is that. You have to eat less food, move around more. But ultimately, eat less food is the ultimate cure for it. But I understand what it takes, and I treat my clients nice and slow. First month, we build up their strength, get them ready. Not immediately stop eating this, this, and this. Because what happens as a kid and an adult, I'm an adult, I do whatever I want. I tell people you can do whatever you want, but we're going to start leaning to this path.
I think that a big part of what's working for me with this is the mental clarity and the mental health aspect of this that has taken place as a result of this as well. Because if I look back to when I did Atkins, right, I was miserable. I was like, man, why? Like, I just kept victimizing myself through all that.
I got a note for that. What was the difference between the Atkins diet and the carnivore diet? Lack of knowledge on both diets, or just the food you were eating? What were you eating on the Atkins diet?
So the Atkins diet, I was encouraged, maybe it was a modified version of it, but basically I would have a cheat day because it was believed that
fucked everything up.
Well, because it was believed that if you stunned your metabolism, that it would then rip cord again after you got back into it. So yeah, that was definitely a problem. But in addition, it was a mixture of still consuming some complex carbs because you wanted a well-balanced meal, right? So most of the time I would have like grilled chicken, scrambled eggs, minimum bacon because it had fat at the time. So
that's right.
So I wasn't consuming fat.
You weren't
right?
being satiated.
Exactly. And that plays such a major role with respect to the success that I've had on this so far, because I don't want anything, right? And in the beginning, of course, the first 3 weeks, you're just like, I really still want that other stuff, right? My wife and daughter are getting a pizza or whatever, like we're all going out, and it's like, oh God, right? I'm like the handicapped guy who's got to try to figure out what to order, right?
Yeah.
But I started to learn little tricks. Hey, you're having a craving in the beginning? Go grab a piece of cheese, right? Some carnivores don't want to incorporate dairy, but cheese is a good, healthy fat if you get the right kind, right? Don't get the processed kind. You want to get an aged, like a really good aged cheddar, or you want to have Parmigiano Reggiano. Those are always raw cheeses. So raw cheese is going to be really, really good for you. It's good for your gut biome. And so, but you'll get a satiation from it. Or I also, when I was getting steaks, I grew up, right? I would trim the fat off and throw that out. I started making beef tallow treats now, where I have all the trimmings from all of my beef, but I render it down and make a really healthy beef tallow. And then I'll basically melt that down into a pot. And I've got a carnivore-based protein. I dump it into the fat, and there's real cacao in there, so it gives it a rich like chocolate flavor, no sugar, right? And then when that coagulates, I cut them into little bite-sized pieces, and I've got little fat cubes that you could eat as snacks. It immediately removes. And it was even as crazy as, and in the beginning I was like, well, this seems ridiculous, but you grab a stick of butter, you cut off a little piece of butter, good Irish butter, like we used at Kerrygold's or wherever has grass-fed butter, right? You cut off a little piece of that, 2 pieces, pop that down, a little bit of salt, right? You're set, right? And there's a right way to do carnivore diet. There's definitely a wrong way to do it. You have to be mindful of your electrolytes. You have to be taking in far more salt than you were ever used to. And you got to be making up, like, you got to
Vitamin C.
Well, and you can get that from organs, right?
100%.
And so what I do, and this sounds gross, but I'll tell you as far as I go. When I go to the farmer now, because I buy half cows, right? Found that, and occasionally because when you buy a half cow, you're only going to get so many steaks out of that, right? So I still go to Sam's Club. I go and I get my grass fed. They'll either have like Brazilian grass fed, whatever. So I still get beef there. But the idea here is that you're preparing your food in a way that is. It's delicious. I don't want anything, right? I don't crave anything else. The fat, when I make a steak now, when I make a beef, when I make a ribeye or I make strip steak, whatever when I make that, salt and pepper that's it, right? And some people say, oh, you shouldn't put pepper on that, right? Like, yeah, no. I buy all of my beef, the bulk of my beef, from a local farmer. Mm-hmm. And so I found out that that's much more cost effective. I've found out a way to make London broil. You see London broil sitting here, right? People would be like, London broil is like leather. You know what?
Nothing's made right.
The sous vide machine for me has been a game changer. You pop a frozen London broil into a sous vide, you let that run for 3 or 4 hours, 127, you come out, black, boom. You cut that, it is mid-rare all the way through, and it'll melt in your mouth. Like there's so much fun that I've had doing this. But I did learn in the beginning the transition that your body goes through if you don't take in enough salt, you don't have the magnesium, potassium. If you don't take that in, you don't get your electrolytes. Yeah, you're going to feel headaches. They refer to stuff as the keto flu. Mm-hmm. You're going to get like what seems like sometimes like a little bit of like a woozy, dizzy spell. Those are the things that scared me in the beginning and made me think that I was doing the wrong thing until I learned. So the question that you asked me before was what was the difference between then and now? And it took us a long time to get there, but really I think you got to learn what you're doing, right? I now know what I'm doing. So understanding food as a tool, as a resource, right? I use it for that. Right? I no longer turn to food as a comfort item, as a celebratory item. I found much more peace in putting that energy elsewhere, right? I'll tell you, at 45 years old, right? You put on all that weight, you lose your libido. I'm in a marriage for 18 years now. You get to a point where like you should not lose that intimacy in a relationship. And for me, you put on all that weight, you don't feel good about yourself, but physically you're also sick. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you want to consider as libido, you can blow that right out the door, right? Without being graphic.
I understand.
Without being graphic, I'll say this. At 45, I'm like a 20-year-old again, Brian. Right? And my wife and I laugh about it now because she's like, you're like a child. Yeah. Stop it. Right? And it's fun now. And so there's so much that has transitioned in me. I want to go do things. Brain cloud gone.
I love
my
it.
Focus, laser focused. I'm inspired to go do things. So much has been reclaimed in my life. And so that's what Carnivore has done for me. But I really want to know, because you said you've got some opinions.
So my opinions on the carnivore diet is, it's not so much the carnivore diet. It's not the Atkins diet. It's not the vegan diet. It's limiting yourself to one particular food group, thinking that that's the only way you can lose weight. When you know from your studies and you're from education from it, you're losing weight because you're eating less than you're burning, or you know what I'm talking about. You're eating less, you're taking in. Ultimately, that's how we lose weight. But everyone needs, you kind of changed my mind. You didn't change my mind, but you changed my outlook a little bit on it as far as everything else. We also hit, and I agree with you, people have to do it their own way or be educated on certain ways, find out which one is best for them when it comes to longevity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not saying I'll never reintroduce anything.
Exactly.
I don't know.
That was my next, we talked about earlier, I took the words out of my mouth. You know?
Yeah.
You're doing this now because it works for you. You're into it. You're feeling great. What more than those three things do you need to continue to do something?
But that right there is where. So look, I'm very much so the person who would have told you I was a foodie, right? Unfortunately for me, when I tell you that I was a foodie, I think that was just my way of sensationalizing my food addiction. Mm-hmm. and sort of glorifying it in a way that makes it look okay. I think that where I'm at now, I can tell you that in my soul, I'm still a foodie. I love attempting to try something gourmet. I love cooking, right? I love that. There's something about a creative outlet when you cook. I've got many friends that are chefs that, we talk about different dish ideas and stuff when we're shooting the shit. And I love all that, man. I was the guy who would go to different restaurants everywhere and spend ridiculous amounts of money on the most ridiculous things because that was celebratory for me. By the way, that's the other thing I want to mention. Financially, I look at how much money I was spending going out and doing what I was doing. I've reclaimed a whole lot of money. And people go, how do you afford to eat, right? I'm not saying it's cheap. And I've worked hard to get to where I am. And yes, I can afford to go buy a half a cow, right? Maybe not everybody could do it. And especially with food prices these days getting outrageous, right? But I eat, like my daily intake looks something like this. Every morning.
I was going to ask you that. Every
morning I get up, I have 6 eggs, whatever way I want them, right? I don't do egg whites only. That's insane.
Eat the whole egg.
The most nutritional part of that egg is right in the yolk.
PSA: eat the whole egg.
Eat the whole damn egg. Hard boiled, scrambled.
Who throws away the fucking yolks?
Yeah, just don't eat them raw. Right? The old bodybuilders that were talking about eating them raw. There's literally issues in, like, if you eat a raw egg, there is something in there that will create a physiological issue for you. People are likely to have skin issues, so on and so forth, right? But 6 eggs every morning. And if I'm feeling froggy, maybe some bacon, right? I don't have a whole lot of pork. It's great when I first started it. There's this whole sort of thing in the carnivore journey. It's called BBBE, right? It's bacon, butter, beef, eggs. Those are your 4 focused consumptions, and it'll get you right through it. And really, it does, because you could consume as much as you want. You're not going to be able to overeat. One of the greatest things that I heard in the beginning here, I started to follow a lot of people on YouTube, and I got involved in one of those online, like when they go live, the live chats with one of the primary folks that are in the carnivore space. And I said, how can you go on this diet? Won't you get sick and tired of eating the same thing over and over again? And his response was profound to me. It was like, why did that never register for me? Right? Here was his answer. He said, he answered it with starting with a question. Do you love steak? Yeah, I love steak. Of course I love. Yes. Okay. Well, if you ever sit down at a table and there's a beautifully grilled steak, nice, crispy, you run your fork across the top, you hear that the crust, you know that there's a little black peppercorn in there. Oh, it's beautiful, right? You cut into it. It's nice, juicy, mid-rare, however you like it, right? But I think it's sacrilegious if you're a well-done eater. Don't do that. Don't do it in front of me anyway. That makes me cringe. My wife's stepfather, well done every time. You can't be an ounce pink. I'm like, no. But he said, if that's what it's sitting, if it's in front of you, it's been prepared, and you are not in the mood, well then, my friend, you're about to be overeating.
And
I was
that
like,
makes sense.
And I was like, wow. Like, this whole concept of wake up, have breakfast at said time, have lunch at said time, have dinner at said time, that shit's designed to make us overeat, right? And we could easily lose focus on understanding the difference. This is really an important part of my journey. I didn't know what it was like to be hungry before. And I also need to give a shout out to Clancy Harrison from Food Dignity Project. We had her on Getting to Know the 570, and she shared with us what hunger is. And it was a game changer for me because I always had wrapped my head around hunger being like, you know, you think about those third world country kind of commercials that come across, the flies landing on a kid's head, his ribs are showing and all that. And you're like, that's hungry. That's starving. Right. Unfortunately, that's not really the depth. That is the extreme version. But right here in America, the fattest people, and I say that aggressively on purpose because we could say overweight, we can dance around it. Now, the fattest people are actually way undernourished, and those people are hungry, right? And I didn't know that. I didn't understand that because that sounded like, no, that person's not hungry. They're good, right? No, hungry is the lack of nourishment, the lack of valuable intake of nutritionally valuable intake. So many of us are not consuming what we need to consume. We are unhealthy. We are hungry. Now, getting that out of the way and going back to what I was saying, and one of the biggest things that was a flip of a switch for me was having been told, if you look at food and you're not in the mood for it, then my friend, you're about to be overeating. And that right there was a flip of a switch. And followed up with, as you proceed with getting into the carnivore lifestyle, right? Because they don't even like to say diet. Everybody titles it that, but it's literally the lifestyle because you are making
it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a life commitment, right? But as you proceed to get into it, then here's what I can assure you. You never knew what it was like to be hungry. All you knew was what it was to be in a moment of craving. And so let me be abundantly clear with you that once you get into this, consuming the fats that you will be consuming, your body will understand absolute satiation. And when that starts to dissipate, you will then understand what hunger is. Hunger doesn't come to you in the form of shakes and feeling weak and all of that. That's sugar withdrawal. That is a problem. When you experience that, that's not you, oh boy, I need to eat. No, that's your body telling you it's cleaning itself out and it's about to get right, but you got to give it more time. Now, I'm not here to give medical advice. People who are already diabetic, who have sugar issues, insulin issues, all of that, that might be an indication of a major problem and you do need medication, whatever that is. Your doctors, right? I don't want to be the one to sit here and give medical advice. What I can tell you is that I was certainly pre-diabetic. I was on the cuff with my blood. I don't know how the hell I wasn't. My whole family, generations before me, my grandparents, aunts, uncles, so many people diabetic. My standing glucose right now, if you were to poke my finger, I wish we would have brought it, because if you poke my finger right now and you took my standing glucose, it's coming in around 74, right? I'm a 360 pound man at 45 years old, and my sitting glucose, my resting glucose is 72, 74. And I never get shakes. You'll never hear me say that oh boy, I maybe I should pop a candy or something. That was the mentality before. Yeah. And so the thing that became very clear to me was I now understand what it is to be hungry. And you know what? I can tolerate it. I can tolerate it because I have incorporated intermittent fasting from time to time. About once a month, I do a 48 to 72 hour fast, salt water only for those 2 to 3 days. And my whole point of it is because I push my body to a stage of what's called autophagy. And autophagy is when your body turns into a self-healing mechanism. It literally is at its strongest point from a healing and a survival standpoint. Autophagy is like next level from your body being in a state of ketosis. It's when your body recognizes that you haven't consumed anything and it needs to start realigning and restructuring all of your gut, all of the things that your body does to identify problems. I don't want to make a false statement, but there are reports out there that being in a state of autophagy, your body will identify things like tumors that you're not aware of. it will start to cut the food source off from cancer. So cancer is known to be to shrink. I didn't really grab my head around that. But then somebody said to me, why do you think that before you go into the hospital for surgery, they tell you need to fast? Because by the time you're ready to go in for surgery, your body will have kicked into a borderline state of autophagy, which then allows your body to start healing way quicker.
Huh.
And I never put that together. And I always thought it was because, well, they don't want you throwing up during surgery or something
I thought it was too. Your body just needs to be cleaned out a little bit.
Your body can process food and pass it through to where you wouldn't be throwing up in just a short few hours. They tell you don't eat for 14, 24 hours, whatever. And after learning about intermittent fasting and understanding how that works and how your body gets to a state of autophagy, I started to realize, well, that's healing. So yeah, they hook you up to an IV. They make sure that you stay hydrated, because that's a big part of when you do intermittent fasting, right? Because you're incapacitated at that point. So it's not like you're going to continue to, measure, hoof down all your water, etc. So they're making sure you're staying hydrated. They're making sure you have your electrolytes, and they're making sure your body's in a state of autophagy. If it's so incredibly healthy for you to do that, why wouldn't we do that regularly? That only makes sense to me. And every time that I do it, I feel like $1 million. But I'm also extraordinarily hungry by day 2.
I bet you are.
Day 3, right?
I bet you are.
So that's it, man. Like that's a big part of, what I have learned when it comes to vegetables. And this may be where people want to debate, but the reason I don't consume vegetables is because I've learned that most vegetables, vegetables and fruit. I do consume fruit every once in a while. I would be what you deem as dirty carnivore, right? Because I will have fresh local honey. I will have fresh local molasses, definitely not on a regular basis. Those are like little treats here and there. And fruit, I mostly will only consume berries because they have no insulin spike. My objective is to stay in a state of ketosis as often as I can. Mm-hmm. If you spike your insulin, you kick yourself right out of ketosis.
Why that cheat day and the Atkins diet screwed everything up.
It's terrible,
It takes
right?
3 days to get into full ketosis, just about, give or take.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so and on a regular, like if I test my ketones on a regular, just eating the meats like I do, butters, fats, all that, right? Standing ketones level will come back ideally at about 0.7 or 0.8 on a regular. On where I go into an extended fast, I'll quickly go up to a 2.3, bordering 3, number 3 on a ketones level. So
higher the better, right?
Actually, no. If you go too high, you can cause yourself an issue. Okay. So with ketones, you want to ideally be in that 2 to 4 range. Anything over that, like you're gonna maybe put yourself in jeopardy. And I can't speak to what that is, but I know that I was told that it was unhealthy. But for vegetables, man, I learned all about things called oxalates and the defense chemicals that are in these foods. We're not intended to eat leafy greens. Our guts are not designed for that. And the bulk of our vegetables and fruit that we see them today, they've all been genetically modified. They are made to look attractive for us. If you look at, and I encourage anybody, go look what the original pineapple looked like. Mm-hmm. It was like a size of a nut, right? A lot of what we have today is all plump. It's luscious looking. It's colorful, vibrant. It's all been modified for big ag so that we become consumers, and it feeds an industry. And I'm not saying that there's not some stuff in it that's good for us, but plantation vegetables in particular, right? A cow consumes something like a leafy vegetable. It has a multi-chambered stomach on purpose because it has a way to get rid of the oxalates and consume the phytonutrients. So for us, we get our nutrients through the animal. The oxalates, they go out. They're thrown out, right? We don't have the ability to process that. So when our gut recognizes that we've got these defense chemicals from plants, and we've got these oxalates in our body. Not only one can you experience inflammation from it, you can also experience skin issues. It could also create emotional distress. It could create stress in your body that spikes cortisol. There's a lot that can come from the defense chemicals that are within vegetables, some fruits, mostly vegetables though. Anything that has a leafy green to it at all, no bueno, right? And these are things that can create inflammation. So when you're trying to avoid inflammation in your diet, because that stops everything. So I know a lot of people who went vegan, mostly vegetarian, they couldn't lose weight for shit beyond some of the initial weight that they lose because they got off of sugar and all the other crap, right? But I know plenty of people who cannot lose weight for anything. And again, I didn't go to Carnivore to lose weight. That's a byproduct and a significant benefit to this. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people, unfortunately, pitch it as the secret to losing weight and keeping it off. And albeit that I believe that to be true, if you don't understand what you're doing and you're not doing carnivore diet to get healthy and to understand all of the underlying things behind it, you're going at it the wrong way and you will not be successful.
People do it for quick fixes.
Yeah.
Not in the long term, not understanding. That's what every diet or lifestyle change, they want the quick fix.
Yeah.
Instead of taking the time, first couple months, on understanding what you're doing, getting your foods lined up, getting your meals lined up, getting into a routine, then keep working it and seeing results. People want immediate results. People come to me, I want to lose 40 pounds this month. Go fuck yourself.
It's crazy. But you got to learn about the food. Here's a quick fact for you. This is crazy. Did you know that you're familiar with cyanide? Mm-hmm. Did you know that cyanide is in a ton of the vegetables and fruits and plant-based stuff that we eat?
I did not know that.
Entertain yourselves, or your listeners, entertain yourselves at going to look at the cyanide levels that are in almonds, right? It's profound. There's reports of people eating deadly amounts of almonds. Now, how true is that? I don't know.
Right.
The fact that cyanide is in it is mind-boggling, right? You think about these defense mechanisms that plants naturally have. You could probably name 5, more than a handful, of vegetables that you would eat that within the hour you will feel gassy, you'll feel crampy, you'll be like, oh, garlic doesn't go well with me. Ooh, if I eat broccoli, I'll be, blowing gas for the next 4 hours, right? That's not normal. That's not normal. There's not a piece of meat you're going to eat other than maybe a piece of pork that was very much grain fed and crap fed where you'll get gassy. All meats, you don't have that.
I like the idea of that.
Another profound bullshit piece that I was blown away by was this idea that there's carcinogens in beef that was what gives you cancer. No, there's not. In a solid raw piece of beef,
there's no carcinogens.
There's no carcinogens in it. Do you know there's over 70 varieties of carcinogens in leafy greens? 70 varieties of carcinogens in leafy greens. Mind-boggling, right? That's not good for you. That's not good for your gut. That's not getting you healthy. That's a problem, right? Multi-chambered stomachs, animals, they have the ability to process that. Their digestive tract, much different. Right? We're designed as hunters. Here's another thing for you. Why is it that as human beings, we have an organ that could literally be removed because it's basically pointless?
What's the answer?
Well, if you think about what your gallbladder does, do you know what its responsibility is?
Fluctuates something to do with carbohydrates?
It's about processing fats and leveraging that organ is a mechanism, and I don't want to skew it entirely, but basically it has a big part to do with processing the fat intake that you take into your body. And when you mix it with carbohydrates and sugars, that organ flips off and it starts to not function and not work. So what ends up happening is that's where people in their gallbladders get this sludgy collection. It's like a drain pipe that's been clogged, and that's where people start having digestive tract issues, cramps, gut issues, irritable bowel syndrome. All of this gut stuff is taking place. We literally have a diet, an American-based diet that stops the function of an organ. The way that I eat, you best believe my gallbladder is working.
The USDA calls for 300 grams of carbohydrates a day to be taken in, 8 grams. Frank, I want to keep talking. We're going to have to bring Carnivore diet, in my opinion on it, to the 570 podcast next week, because I have to go down to the gym.
Let's do it.
Train some kids.
Let's do it, man. Pal? Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to stop about a half hour ago, but I'm fascinated by the conversation. So time just flies by, and you had me sucked in. So I'm looking forward to our episode on the 570.
Me too.
I'm going to tell a little bit more of my story, and then I'll be able to debate you a little bit on the carnivore diet. Because if I get into it now, I'll never get to work, and Tyler's going to have me. Yeah.
Get the papers. Get the papers.
I was doing the pizza review for our Carolyn Chanel's. I was testing the microphones out. I don't know if you watched it. I'm like, get the pizza. Get the pizza. So I had to go to the car to get the pizza, and I'm just testing the microphone. Get the pizza. The microphones work great. Those Rode wireless ones.
Yeah.
I always do it. I did one review where they, for some reason, didn't work. I didn't have it on. I'm like, oh my God, I wasted the whole review. We do it again. You never find that magic again, sometimes.
I want to go hit the road with you and do a few. I would love to join you if you'll have me.
Oh, I would love it.
To go do some steak reviews.
Fuck yeah.
We'll try. I mean, burgers are a little off, but I want to know, does this place give a banger of a steak? Right?
Yes.
And I think that would be a blast.
No, I absolutely. We should do it in Anthony's in Old Forge.
I'll go wherever.
Yeah,
man.
I want to try to serve pizza on their steaks, but I had a great time, Frank.
Me too,
I love getting to know you, and then I get to know the 7-0 next week, and then what a great day here at Conversion Work Studio here. I had a blast recording our episodes with Russ, and then me and you. I had a fucking blast, bro.
Me too, man.
Right.
I'm glad to have you. Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me on as a guest and allowing me to tell my story. Haven't done it, so
I wish we had unlimited time right now, so we could finish it off. But there's always
Russ said the same thing.
Yeah, tons of time to talk. Yeah, you're right.
This is why this is fun. So there's room for us to do another one. But it'd be great if they did come over. Go to Getting to Know the 570. If anybody wants to find us, Getting to Know the 570.com. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're everywhere you want to be. We're mostly an audio based. We've just recently started incorporating video. We're going to do special episodes.
Nice.
But we're on all of your platforms. We're on Apple. We're on Pandora. We're everywhere. Right? So you can find us anywhere. Getting to Know the 570. Bri, thanks, man.
You're welcome, Frank. I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you bringing me in. And I feel like I'm part of the family down here already. It's always been day
We're going to
one.
have a blast. We're only scratching the surface.
I love that. You have an excellent one-punch knockout fucking snack room over there too, by the way. Just so you know, all right?
Hey,
oh.
You can have all the mineral water you want.
I've never been anywhere before where I couldn't have a tonic water out of the fridge. You know what I mean? So
you're welcome to have as much as you want, pal.
I want to thank all of my listeners, especially everyone that has been part of the transition from a few months ago around Christmas when I left and started doing them in my kitchen, and everyone that supported me through that. And then I found my way here. I want to thank all my listeners. And that's it. I got to go work and train the kids. My name is Brian DiMattei. This is the Food Fight Podcast. Frank, thank you so much. Awesome.